Welcome to the Body Harmonics Podcast, where we move freely, heal deeply, and flow with ease. I'm your host, Renee McLaughlin, somatic educator and the creator of Body Harmonics. For over 30 years, I've guided people like you out of pain and limitation and back into your body's innate wisdom. Are you ready to awaken your life? Let's dive in. Welcome everyone to the Body Harmonics Podcast, and today I am thrilled to be able to introduce to you one of my amazing international best friends, Gergana Radovich. Welcome, Gergana. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Oh, I love that. So Gergana actually lives in Bulgaria. So you think, Renee, Bulgaria, how in the world did you meet a bestie in Bulgaria? Well, through the workout that both of us are master trainers in called TTAP. And many years ago, Gergana was needing a little assistance and she called old Renee, the TTAP trainer, and we worked. She won a couple of challenges that we had, and because she just loved it so much, she became a trainer as well. But on that journey, the other thing that happened was, as Gergana was going through the TTAP, etc., there was some trepidation. She was also going into school, and so as I saw that, I said, there's a specific method that you can do right away that might just help. So in that, I taught Gergana basic EFT. And so Gergana has gone on. Yes, she became a master trainer. She became a master emotional freedom technique trainer and certified clinical EFT practitioner. And you guys, I'm looking down because I want to make sure I get all the words right with Gergana. So Gergana, before we really get into it, and I promise we will, I'm just going to give a little bit more bio so that you guys understand how incredible she is. So Gergana is ready for this one, guys, a holistic sleep coach. We're going to talk a lot about sleep today. She's a therapist, as I talked about, EFT, clinical EFT practitioner. And yes, she is an author specializing in sleep, stress, fatigue management, and she helps leaders and managers increase their productivity by improving the quality of their sleep. So Gergana also has, I love really smart friends. She has 15 years of experience as an aviation psychology instructor, once again, specializing in managing stress, fatigue, and sleep in flight crews and other categories of aviation staff. So, Gergana, let's talk sleep, shall we? How did you get into the whole category of sleep? How did that even happen?
As an aviation instructor, I had to teach pilots of how to manage stress, how to work in teams, what to do, what not to do in their daily job. And I'm talking years ago. In all this program, because it was a fixed program that I had to do many times, there was a small, part of sleep. And I remember the first time when I read about sleep, how important it was, what were the stages of sleep, etc., and I was hooked, for lack of better word for that, because it was many years ago. Nobody talked about sleep. I couldn't read about sleep anywhere besides these things that I think that I was reading. And I started thinking of how cool if we could use this in our general life. And then I continued with my aviation trainings and all the stuff, but the sleep, it was right there. And again, as you said, it came along with TTAP, with EFT. I still remember that night because it was night in Bulgaria and during the day in Atlanta,
Right.
when you taught me some basic EFT. I remember it vividly, like it's happening now. It was probably, I don't know, 12 years ago, even more.
Right.
And so sleep came by with all of these things: stress management, fatigue management, EFT, exercising, nutrition. And slowly but surely, I got certified as a sleep coach, and sleep became one of my primary areas of interest and of practice, basically, because that's how much I like the topic. Talking about the topic, learning the topic.
And sleeping. I know you well enough to know that you love to get some sleep.
Absolutely. And probably one of the funny thing is that whenever we meet an expert, I'm sure you agree with me, but whenever we meet an expert, usually that people have some problems in the area that they are teaching in. I had never have problems with sleep. And I love that. I mean, I just knew from the day one, I knew how important sleep is.
And now there are, of course, we need the scientific studies who study all about longevity and thriving. And wow, there's some new research that really shows that how much sleep you get really does correspond to healthy aging and longevity. And as we get older, I find it becomes, there's a period of time anyway, right? And I'm mainly speaking about women because that's what I have my personal experience with. But as the hormones change, a lot of times it affects that sleep. And when we don't sleep, we can't heal, right? Do you want to talk about that just a little bit?
Yes, of course. And I just want to, it's a usual topic. I mean, for some reasons, we think about sleep problems when we start approaching perimenopause and menopause. But it's the wrong, bell to ring first. Because we need, I'm not saying it's not important, I'm just saying that we should start pay attention to sleep way earlier than that. Because many of my clients are men or younger women, and they have problems with sleep not so much because of the hormonal issues, but because they don't put any attention to their sleep hygiene, or they don't put any priority on their sleep quality. And then when women approach menopause, hormonal changes make this mess even bigger. So that's why I'm saying it's a wrong, question to put focus on, but we should think of sleep as something really important, and we can do a lot of things to improve that even during menopause. And probably the best thing that we could do, start with actually, is to really pay attention to our sleep hygiene, and when we go to bed and when we get out of bed, wake up and get out of bed. But these are the basics, very basics. There are other things as well.
Beautiful. And let's talk about it. Before we do, though, I love that idea. And, you know, it's so interesting to me. I'm going to go down a little rabbit hole, but I want to come back because this is important. And that is, because I've been doing this, when I say doing this, really working on my own nutrition and movement, right? And I'm not going to say I've focused on sleep, but I don't really have much sleep issue. So I did for a little while. But where I'm going with this is, as younger people, you're right. It's like we think that we're immortal. We just don't really get that what we're doing when we're younger you might not even recognize the benefits in that moment, but they are cumulative. And so when you get up in your 50s, 60s, this is when you are appreciative of all the things you've done up till now. And not to say that you can't then start now. It's never too late to start. But when you start earlier, this is when you really reap the benefits. And so thank you. I loved how you were able to shift that, that narrative. And one last thing, and then I'll be quiet. Also, I love that you used the word sleep hygiene. So you didn't just say, how many hours do you sleep? It's not right. There's a hygiene to it. So go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that for me, it's not a surprise that you don't have big sleep issues. Let me put it this way: every single person on earth from time to time doesn't sleep well. That's normal, that's part of life. But again, for all the years that I've known you, you've been paying attention to exercise, nutrition, emotional balance, etc. So Renee, you see the consequences.
Right.
That's where the good sleeps comes from paying attention to how we live our daily lives.
Right.
And going back to sleep hygiene, eating well, exercising regularly, um, uh, paying attention to our stress release, emotional balance, all of these things are important, really important. But again, there are other things. Probably, as we talked with you before our, recording, was that everybody knows that they have to sleep, certain number of hours, say 7-8 hours. That we have to avoid caffeine, we have to avoid alcohol, we have to stay away from screens, etc., etc. But we all know that.
Right.
But my question here is, do we do that? Because this is the difference. So I'm asking everybody, if you are not having the great sleep you could have, are you really paying attention and applying the things that you already know? And this is just the basic.
Right.
And there are other things that we might want to talk about.
Go for it. What else might we want to talk about it? I love that. And
Well,
yes, and why? And here's a question, which I have a feeling it's going to kind of roll into this. And why are we sabotaging ourselves? Right?
uh,
That isn't that a belief system? Like, what's going on in the background where I know I need sleep, I want sleep, I know what to do, and I'm not doing it.
and there is something that came out in the past 5 years, probably. It was directly related to pandemic. There is some behavior related to sleep that we are like punishing ourselves in the evening for as we are not going to bed. I mean, we know we have to go to bed, say at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., doesn't really matter. And then we start procrastinating and we are watching this show and that show and we are eating and we are doing stupid things on our phones. And we know this is the most important thing. We know that tomorrow we need to get up at 6 or 7, doesn't really matter. And we know that we won't get enough sleep and we know we'll feel really bad. And still we punish ourselves with not going to bed. So this is a whole new, interesting idea about sleep, and it's directly related to beliefs that we have about sleep, around sleep, and beliefs we have about ourselves and what we cannot do, or what we deserve or don't deserve. So the topic about beliefs around sleep is probably one of my most favorite topics, and I really love talking about it.
Please. And as you know, beliefs are the one thing that I'm passionate about and
I
how
know.
they're running our life, right? And we're just blindly going along, not questioning it. And these are the kinds of things. So, oh, girl, get into it. Give me some information about beliefs.
Now I'll state a couple of statements and let's see. So, one of the most common beliefs that everybody has heard is every person needs 8 hours of sleep. This is probably the most common and not so true
Right.
belief. It's true for some of us, probably 50%, and absolutely not true for the rest of us, approximately 50%. Another very common belief is I can get used on less amount of sleep than I need. I can get used and I can perform really well, which is a dangerous thought. And it's very common for successful people, for goal-driven people, for those who want to achieve more and need more time for that. And usually we take that time from our sleep. There is another belief that's really common is that I can preserve my decision making abilities, my risk avoidance, my cognitive skills with less amount of sleep. Or if I'm chronically, struggling with sleep. And this is absolutely untrue. What's happening, and I would like to put it this way, if we usually, our performance levels are right here when we have enough sleep on daily basis. When we sleep less with even 30 minutes for 1 day, 2 days, many days, our performance levels get here. Now, if this was our first normal, now our normal is right here. And we're getting used on that. And we falsely believe that, this gap doesn't exist, which is not true. So those are, and one more. I can, say during the week, I can sleep less. And then during the weekend, I can make up. Well, you can't. You can get a little bit more sleep, but if you sleep every day 6 hours and you usually need 7.5, 5 days, you are from Monday to Friday, you are losing a whole night's sleep of 7 hours and a half. You can't, really make up these hours during the weekend. Nobody can. So just a few things for us to think of.
Ooh, those are good. So immediately then I go to, so if 7 to 8 hours is not really the correct amount for all of us, just like being vegan isn't right for 50% of us and carnivore for the other 50%, right? And so there is no one size fits all. So how is there a way to know that at this point in life, because I'm sure it changes as well, what the best amount is for us?
I'll teach you how to find your best amount. And this is, this tip comes from aviation. I haven't met a better one for all these years after that.
Great. All right.
Very simple tip, very simple trick that everybody can do. So imagine a period of time where you are probably on a vacation, you are, less stressed, you have certain routine, and you have more time to sleep than it's usually a vacation thing. And then pay attention on how you feel when you sleep, more than usual, or if you sleep more than usual. And here is the most important part. Do this for 10 days, 2 weeks, and keep a diary. You need to have this statistical information put down in order to be able to go back and really see. And what you'll find is that on the days that you have certain numbers of sleep, it might be 6.5, 7, 7.5, you feel better than on the days you have probably less hours of sleep. So that's why we need for 14 days, 2 weeks, just to have enough data for that. So you're really paying attention to how you feel, tied to how many hours of sleep you had that night. And start doing that, you will notice where is your ideal time. And then one more thing that's important, sleep cycle. It's Renee, I'm giving here a really short course, but it's very important coming from practice. Sleep cycle consists of mostly of 90 minutes. So when we go to bed at say 10 p.m. and we wake up at 5:30 or 6:30, we are going through several 90-minute cycle. And science believes, I believe, because I've seen it again and again and again, that when you have finished your full cycle, like when you have 6 hours or 7.5 hours or 9 hours of sleep, then you feel much better than if you break the cycle before it ends. Does it make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So you combine those two things, having 14 days period, and then you're paying attention to how long you sleep. And then you do a little math. It's really simple. And try to round up to the end of the last cycle. Probably you'll find out that 7.5 hours are a good time for you, or probably even 6 hours. It depends. But on my opinion, for most people, 6 hours is way too less.
Yeah.
So start with 7.5 hours and move in one or the other direction.
It's so interesting because my body now is right at 7.5 hours, and it doesn't matter if I'm in a different time zone, if I'm over here. It's unless I'm completely jet lagged, which is rare. Right at 7.5 hours. That's so interesting, right? So I don't even really need a clock anymore. I pretty much know. I'll pick up the phone, like, there it is. That's exactly when. So that's so interesting. Thank you for that. Now, you and I have not talked about this, so hopefully I'm not catching you completely off guard, but it is a question that I'm interested in. So I have a couple of friends who use that Aura ring. Are you familiar? And so she's like, oh my goodness, look, I got such great quality sleep last night, or I just added this thing. And thoughts around that?
I personally, I'm not saying it's not right or they should stop using that, but personally, you and I both, we are so much connected to our bodies that, correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't need really technology to tell us how we feel. So I'm telling all my clients, and usually those are people from tech world, managers, people who love to use technology, and they come up and say, I have this fancy, watch, I have this Oura ring, etc., etc. And I'm like, why do you need that? Do you need something to tell you slept well when you feel great? I don't.
I love that, Gergana. And, honestly, you guys, we did not practice this. I never told her I was going to ask this question. But that's so interesting because that's kind of how I feel. It's like, but again, I'm a somatic educator. I'm like, we got to get out of our heads for everything. You have, get into the body. It's going to tell you. There's so much wisdom in the body. But when we give up our power to the ring, you lose that connection that probably might not have even had, but that there's an opportunity to have. So we're on the same page on that. Thank you.
That's a surprise, right?
Right. No, we knew that was good. So you wrote the book on sleep, which I know has been just like a really runaway success and bestseller. And Gergana, now you're off and you're teaching to all these people. And so I also know, you guys, that the English version is on its way. Yes, can we say that? Fingers crossed. So I will have Gergana back again, especially when the book comes out here in English. But it doesn't, she just speaks so beautifully anyway in English. So this will be awesome. Um, I know that you, of course, included, stress, and it's very all about stress. And you told me something earlier that I found really fascinating, which is when you can't sleep, what happens when you're actually in bed. Can you share that one or two tips about that?
Absolutely. For my practice, we don't really pay attention to sleep, but we pay attention to stress, anxiety, worry, how we have aches or something's not working well with our bodies. But again, sleep and stress and anxiety are very tightly connected. So think of think of sleep in this way. If you try manage your stress levels, decrease your anxiety levels, your sleep will improve. So the connection, the pathway should be, wow, how can I manage my anxiety? How can I do better? And not how I can sleep better. And when people have problems with sleep, this is one thing. And the second thing is that when people have problems with sleep, and because they don't have this great sleep during the night, they tend to, it's a common trait, they tend to spend as much time in bed as they could. And it's counterproductive. So if we are having problems with sleep, it's better to limit our time in bed to the hours that we really sleep. Don't spend time in bed lying, reading, watching TV, watching movies, just staring at the ceiling. If you stay in the bed only if you're asleep. When you wake up and can't fall back asleep for 20 minutes, get up, do something else. Don't smoke, don't drink, don't drink coffee. But again, this is time restricting in bed actually exercise, and it's really useful because what I see, especially in elders, and especially when people don't have don't need to be at work, or they have their days free for them, they spend the whole day in bed and then they complain, I can't sleep. Really? You can't sleep, you cannot sleep if you spend the whole day in bed. So this is important thing. And if you allow me to go back to stress management and stress release, because again it's related. When we are in bed and we can't fall asleep, we get anxious. And the more we think about, oh, I have to sleep, the more we can't fall asleep, the more anxious we become. And it's a really vicious cycle. And what I found, and you know that because we've been in touch for so long, but what I found is the simplest of all tools called EFT, the thing that you taught me so many years ago. It works magically for releasing stress, releasing anxiety, and improving sleep. And it takes 10 minutes, 5 minutes. You do it daily, you feel better. You don't do it, you might not be able to fall asleep. So I'm just saying there are several things we can do, and there are simple things, but we need to do them daily.
Right. And the simplest things, I think simplicity is the highest form of sophistication, right?
Absolutely.
And keep it as simple as possible, but not simpler, right? So give it a couple of quotes there, just to,
Absolutely.
I love that. Just some beautiful, beautiful tips. Um, one more that I might share with you, because I know that you would agree with this completely also, is you mention it, but I'm going to highlight, when we're in the bed and we're not falling asleep, what are we placing our attention on? What we don't want to happen. I'm not sleeping. I'm not sleeping. I need to sleep. I'm not sleeping. And so constantly, that's what happens. We stay up. We get more of what we're focused on. And so I love the idea of, don't focus on I'm not sleeping. Instead, tune in somatically into the body. Put your focus down and start doing some beautiful breath work, some deep breaths into the belly and exhale. Maybe put your focus on your feet and just start some progressive relaxation and progressive relaxation. And what's one more muscle I can let go? And let go and let go. And so what's the focus on? It's on relaxing. And then I find for myself, when I do have issues, as soon as I just really allow the relaxation, I surrender in to the relaxation, to feeling the bed against my skin and just letting myself sink. And before I know it, I am asleep. So, right, it's what and how we're focusing. So,
Absolutely. And if you allow me, just something that I do when from time to time I have troubles falling back asleep, instead of thinking, oh, I'm not going to sleep again, oh, what will happen tomorrow, oh, we all have these thoughts, I'm focusing my attention on things I love. I love to travel. So I'm saying to myself, okay, where do you want to go? Think about this.
beautiful.
Think about this, and it helps me. So another tip.
Another beautiful tip. I love this. What you guys, ah, Gergana, you are such a wealth. I love it. And you know how much I just love sharing with you and listening to all that you're doing. So, just sending you so much love over there in Bulgaria. And I can't wait when the book comes out again in English or before. Let's do this again. I'd love to continue this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me, and it will be my absolute pleasure to be back again. Thank you.
I love you. All right, you guys. And this is another wrap up of the Body Harmonics Podcast. Thank you for joining me today on the Body Harmonics Podcast. I hope this conversation sparked something inside of you, a reminder to slow down, breathe deeply, and come back home to your body. And if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review. It's the best way to help us share this message and keep these heart-centered conversations going. And if you're eager and ready to go deeper, connect with me on social media at Body Harmonics, or head over to our website for free resources, upcoming retreats, and ways to move, heal, and flow together. And until next time, remember, move freely, heal deeply, and flow.